Hey guys, thanks for showing up to the Shiny Things podcast. I'm Jenee Michelle, communications expert and certified body language trainer. I'm here to help you figure yourself out a little bit and be able to decode other people better too. The goal of the Shiny Things podcast is to get you showing up as your most clued in and confident self in any situation. This season, we're focused on getting real about dating in an app-based digital world. We're going to dive into the good, bad, and really, really ugly parts of dating on demand. With so many apps bringing you so many options in such a short time, it's hard not to get distracted by shiny things. Let's get the conversation started. Our topic today is going to be taking a look at how we form our beliefs around love and relationships, and questioning, why do we view relationships through the lens that we do? Where do those deep-rooted beliefs come from? And how do those beliefs serve us or hinder us now as we navigate the complex digital dating environment? Did we make a mindful decision to adopt what we believe? Or is it just some sort of autopilot program that we've been operating under without even really taking the time to question it? I'm really excited for today. And the guest today is Jenee Michelle. And she is amazing. And I'm looking so forward to learning from your expertise, Jenee. Thanks so much for being on with me today.
Absolutely. I'm super jazzed to be here. And I'm so glad that, you reached out and were able to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been waiting to have this conversation with you. So I'm going to take a minute and just introduce you to our listeners here. Jenee is a speaker, personal coach, and traveler who goes near and far to bring exclusive and unique services to her clients. She's a curator of digital self-discovery programs and a master at connecting the dots for her clients. Yes, you are. I attest to that. She is a broadcast journalism graduate from the University of Nevada, Reno, and an Emmy-nominated television producer, having worked for networks such as ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and PBS. She's a contributor for the Huffington Post and founder and creative boss of Pure, the company. Jenee also just released her new book, Want a Hero? #Be Your Own Damn Hero on Amazon. You guys need to go there and download it now. Jenee.
Hi.
Spending some time with the listeners of Shiny Things today.
I know. I'm so excited to be here because, I always love connecting with people who are in the like-minded space of wanting to, be a part of something, learn more about themselves, learn more about the process of what, their life is, what it should be, where they want it to go. And so I'm super pumped to sit here and have a great conversation. And I love your approach. I can already tell that this is going to go really well.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to learning. And I love just your entire approach to your coaching and the work that you do, and the level of passion that you put into everything that you share. Whether it's with an online community or whether it's speaking to a live group or working one-on-one, like you walk the walk. Can you tell me a little bit about how you discovered that passion and how you decided that that's what you're putting your energy into?
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting journey for me because I'm not a standard coach. Like I didn't go the educational route from the coaching standpoint. Now I have education in broadcast journalism and years and years of experience. And I didn't really realize throughout all of these experiences of, being in pageantry my whole life and being in like front of television and journalism situations my whole life, and, starting a dance company and, like all these different factors really are the reason what grew me into becoming a coach. I didn't really realize that all those years that I was a coach. And I was coaching people along some of the hardest things that they had ever really had to deal with in their life. And I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. And then I realized when I did, I was like, well, why am I not just doing this as a business? Because I love doing this work. I am a humanitarian at heart. I want everybody to like me, but I also know that that's not going to happen. And so at some level, I don't care if they do. So I think there's been this very interesting push-pull with, trying to come around with myself, trying to evolve who I am as a person. and doing the work in that process so I could become a really good leader, a really good coach, a real mindful coach for people who desperately know they need change, who desperately know they're meant for more. And I love that process. I mean, for me to be able to sit on the sidelines and watch someone go through that process has been, life shifting for me.
That's so awesome. I love that was kind of a situation that found you.
Yeah, it really, really was. It really was. You're right about that. I mean, it's the situation. Absolute. It seems like it's always like been knocking on my door, but apparently I didn't answer it for a while.
Well, yeah, and you kind of have to. It's kind of a scary thing to take ownership of, especially if it seems like something that may not have been part of your plan or maybe not in your timing, and then to just step up and accept that and be like, all right, wherever you want me to go, I'm going to just follow and go along with the ride, and to be of a service mindset like you are. I think it takes a lot of courage, and I acknowledge you for working from that place of courage and not being okay having things be kind of a dynamic environment versus a static or traditional environment.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely haven't done a lot traditional in my life. I started out more that way, but it's definitely evolved into a very eclectic life. And instead of fighting against that, instead of listening to people tell me, you can't be a jack of all trades, you have to be a master, and telling me all these things that I should be, I started, listening for myself. And I started going, if you're going to ask me to, not do some aspect of what I'm good at, it's like asking me to cut off an arm. And I just can't do that because I couldn't function. So, it's been a very interesting journey to say the least. And, but thank you for seeing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I always love to see people that are kind of living in their truth and following bravely wherever that next call to service may lead them. So, I would love to talk to you about how you followed bravely into the area of love, because it seems to me that you look like you found it.
I really have. I've had a very interesting love journey. I've had probably every kind of relationship you can imagine. I mean, I grew up watching my parents, who are still married to this day, and thick through thin, rich poor. I mean, they have stood the testament of time, and they have been amazing role models for me in the love department. I also realized that I maybe over time, I don't want to do it like them necessarily. And it's not to say, obviously, that I don't think highly of it, because I just said I do. I think they have a beautiful love relationship. But, through high school, I had very long-term committed relationships, and I never really dated. And I mean, I would go from like a 3-year to a 5-year to 3-year relationships all through that time period and into my even college years. I mean, I wasn't a traditional college student. I lived off campus. I never went to a sorority party or a fraternity party, not any party for that matter. And so I didn't have a traditional like dating kind of scenario. And so when I moved to LA from Reno, God, that seems really long ago. But when I moved there, that, I kind of realized, I haven't dated. Maybe I should try this dating thing. And so that's when like Match had just come out, Match.com. And I dated the crap out of people. I mean, I think I went a little crazy. And I met...
You busted out of that shell, huh? And off you went.
Right? Like I had the most interesting dating life in California. I mean, I have stories that would make your head spin, your ears twitch, and maybe even shriek a little. And it was interesting though, because I didn't really do it so I could find love. I somewhat did, because I mean, I was young, and I think as a 20-something, you're really focused on finding the guy and getting the life and getting the marriage and getting the kids and getting the house and all of those things. Like I was trying to check off, like just like so many of my fellow 20-year-old girlfriends are doing. And I'm going like, slow down. It's cool. You just figure out what you want. It might not look like that. Consider it, but in that space, I was just, I mean, I had a date in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. And I was getting
So I'm not
fed
the
really
only
well.
one that's done the rapid fire date during the day. That's funny.
Well, I mean, you can keep them kind of short and sweet when they're like that. And if they, if they're not fun, then you don't have to like hang out. But I mean, I remember a few really select dates from that time period of meeting people that I'm like, oh my God, there is no way in hell I would ever date you. But at the same time, like we had great conversations. They were great people. Um, I had a date in Venice Beach once with this really handsome guy. And we were sitting and watching all the craziness of Venice Beach, just having sangria. And at one point in the conversation, I mean, he was such an honest, true person, which I really loved. And he said, you know that this isn't going to go anywhere. And I said, I totally do. I'm so glad you said it first. And,
Right.
and I'm like, and I was like, oh my God, somebody is being honest. I can't believe it, And then I had just the opposite reaction when I had this guy who was all over, like, trying to get me to date. And I was young and dumb because I went to his house for our first date because he's like, I want to make you dinner. And I got there and he was so desperate to find someone that he was just like, I wrote you this poem and let me read it to you by the fire and let me make you dinner. And what do you want? Do you want hair extensions? Do you want a car? Like, I'll buy any of that stuff for you. And I'm like, what in the world did I just walk into right now?
Know your role, Junior. Let's back this train up a little bit.
This is a first date, and I'm like, and he got really mad when I said, yeah, this is not going to work. Like, I can't be bought. And he was pissed. Oh my God. He was so mad at me. And I was just like, I could sit here and waste your time and take all your money if you want, and then just leave your ass cold, dry, and sad, or I could go ahead and just be honest with you and move forward so you can find your happiness and find the girl who really wants that in her life. I mean, we could choose. We could play this game all day long. So,
right.
I had an interesting journey, and I did end up meeting my my first husband through Match.com, and that was a 6-year relationship, and it was a topsy-turvy one. But we had a child together, and we're, to this day, we work really hard to be great parents to him, and we get along because we know, what's important out of the situation, which is being a really good role model for our son. And so we don't always agree with things. We have our moments even to this day, but really at the end of the day, we're friends and we support each other. And we know that, I know that his happiness is ultimately my child's happiness. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it took a while to get there. That shit didn't happen overnight.
I'm about 8 years out from my divorce, and we're cool hanging out now. Yeah. It's a process.
Yes, it is. It's a process for sure. But it's, once you finally get there, it's great. So.
Yeah. Well, so tell me how you landed in love this time around.
It started very much the same way. But when people hear this story, they're like, "What? No way." So, I was working in the news business, and I decided that I wanted to start dating again after my divorce was, in its process, and I was moving on. And I got on the dating site Plenty of Fish.
Oh yeah, I've been there too.
That's an interesting little space.
Yeah.
Let's just call it that.
Perfect way to describe it for public consumption.
Yeah. I was there for a few weeks, and I was like, oh my God, like I have got to get off the site. But I had met this guy on there who seemed it was very nonchalant. I couldn't even tell you what our first conversations were, but it was just really nonchalant. It was really like, hey, he seemed very normal by like comparison to what I had met there.
What's that? The bodies in your freezer. What's going on?
Right. And so I said, hey, I just find me on Facebook because I have got to get off the site. This is nuts. Like, I cannot be here. This is toxic. And he's like, absolutely. I'll find you there. So he did. And we were friends. For a while on Facebook, and we would just comment every once in a while on each other's stuff. And he never reached out. He never really asked me out. And we exchanged a few. And I finally said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to ask him out.
Good for you.
So I asked him to lunch, And we sat and we met at a little restaurant in Indianapolis on the near north side. And we just sat and talked for a while. And I thought, oh, wow, that went really, really well. And like a day or so later, he asked me for a second date. And I was like, awesome. All right. So I went on the second date and I found out on that date that he was a scuba diver and I'm a scuba diver. And I don't know if anybody realizes how hard it is to find other scuba divers in the Midwest. And this was before like Facebook groups and pages and all that crap, right? So it wasn't easy to find then. So I was like, I went off for like 2 hours talking about scuba diving. And then I realized what I had done. And I had told my mom, I think I just blew it.
Oh.
And the next day he called and was like, hey, I'm going to my friend's party. Do you want to come? And I'm like, friends? You want me to meet your friends?
Right. That's a big deal.
Yes.
Especially like when you've only hung out a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, the relationship kind of escalated quickly. He had been dating someone and told her that he wasn't interested in anything long term right now. And then he met me, and I guess I kind of derailed that plan, and she was really upset about that. Poor thing.
I was gonna say, I bet that went over like a ton of bricks with
yeah. I've been on that side though. I've been on that other side, so it's kind of like we, all of us kind of have to have that experience, I think. But yeah, I mean, it just after a month, I remember we were saying goodbye at some point, and I was walking to my car and he turned around. He's like, okay, bye. Love you. And I went, what? I turned around. I was like, pardon me? And I was like, okay. I didn't even know if I should say it back to him. Cause
I like how he just like throws it in on the sly with your back turned. Like, let's see how this lands.
And he didn't realize he did it though. Like it just kind of came out like just so vulnerable that you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, so like you just don't, you say something before you even think about it. And I was like, I text him while I was driving away from his house. I'm like, did that just really happen? And he's like, I think it did. And I wouldn't take it back.
Right. That's the thing. It's like the litmus test of throwing it out there. So did you say it on accident, or is this like a thing that I need to consider, or what's going on here?
Yeah. So that's kind of, I mean, and then a year later, we were living together, and then maybe 2 years after that, I asked him to be my forever because we're not really a traditional situation. There's some aspects of the traditional relationship that I love. And so I don't want to call him my boyfriend when we're 80. So I told him that I'd rather at least call him my fiance forever. And he's like, absolutely, let's do it. So, I mean, we've been engaged for like 4 years or something.
I love that. See, I like that you guys are comfortable in that space, because I kind of fight against this all or nothing mentality. And I feel like coming out of a marriage and already having that experience, like I definitely love the idea of monogamous partnership and companionship and long-term memory building with someone who has my heart. But I don't know how that plays out, and I don't want to get caught in semantics or technicalities. So to be candid, I'm still kind of sorting through where I land on that. If I think it has to look, I don't necessarily know that it has to look
right
one way or the other, or have like a definitive end game.
Well, and I think, and you and I talking, even before this, and I get asked to talk on love a lot, which I find funny because I've had such a weird love life in many ways, but I do really feel like I have the thing in my life. And I feel like I have, some good history to speak from. But I mean, it really does come down to your love beliefs and where you learned them. And we had spoken briefly about this beforehand, but if you want to dive into it, we can, because, our love beliefs are things that we are so committed to and so attached to. But if I asked you where you learned that love belief, would you be able to tell me? Maybe some ideas, maybe mom and dad, maybe fairy tales, maybe movies, and things like that. But did you create it? Did you create that love belief? Chances are you did.
Yes. And that's, we had talked briefly before, like I had never even really thought to check the source or the origin of, like, I definitely have some ideas of what it looks like or what it shouldn't be, but I haven't, really been challenged or challenged myself to think about why. Why do I think it looks this way and not that way? It's really fascinating. I want to go deeper on that with you and talk about, what is the process for really examining your love beliefs in a candid and honest way? And then once you kind of identify those, then what?
It's painful. Right out of the gate, it's going to be painful.
That's what I was looking for, Jenee.
I know.
I don't want pain.
I know. And that's really, I think, the main reason why people don't ask themselves this question about what they really, really want in love, because they're really afraid to ask for what it is that they want. And they don't want to question a belief system that's been in place for them for the better part of their entire life, because that would mean they would have to change everything. Like, that would change everything from maybe even feeling like you've been living a lie up to this point in your life. Nobody wants to be questioned that way. It's the reason why people are so committed to things like their politics and their religions and things of that nature, because to be confronted with a new idea means you have to consider everything before that. And nobody wants to really do that, because that's painful. That's a painful process. And I mean, I have to answer questions all the time about, like, when are you getting married? And, you guys have been together for so long, like, you really should, figure something out here. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, I'm not in this relationship for you. I'm in this relationship for me. And if this situation makes you uncomfortable, I apologize, but I'm not here to make you comfortable. You can't.
It takes so much strength to, like, stand firm-footed in that line of questioning, especially if it's family members or people whose opinion you actually do really care about. Yes. Like, it's how have you found, like, what do you draw courage from as far as being able to comfortably stand in that space? Is it more from a self-worth perspective, or is it from an autonomous perspective, or what do you think has really served you well in defending or feeling you don't have to defend those things?
I ask myself if I'm willing, how long I'm willing to pretend. I mean, how long do I want to pretend that this is how I believe love? And if I'm willing to pretend for the rest of my life, that means I'm committed to pretending in love for the rest of my life. And am I really okay with that? Because that's what it's going to take, because you will have to. It's just like, and I think I learned that lesson really early on, and it came from a weird space of when I did pageantry, and I never got the crown. I was a fourth runner-up. I was a first runner-up, a second runner-up, a first runner-up. I never kind of clinched the crown when I did pageantry. And I think it's because I always decided I'm not going to try to be something I'm not, because that means I would have to pretend to be that person for a whole year of my life. And I think I would get frustrated because I'm like, why am I not winning? Why am I not winning? And I think almost like the judges knew it. They knew that there's no way that we're going to be able to work with that for a year in the context of how she wants to reign as a queen. And it's not because I wouldn't be a good role model. It's just, I don't fit into their cookie cutter way. So what cookie cutter way in love are you trying to fit into? That's really not who you are, that you are trying to pretend your way through. I mean, most of our love beliefs, we don't even check for legitimacy. We don't vet them properly. We don't go, hey, okay, I love, When Harry Met Sally. I love that story. Okay, great. Well, is that really how you want your love life to go, or do you want it to look differently? And why does it serve you, or why are you attracted to that type of love? And do you have that in your life? Have you experienced it before? I mean, there is a long line of questioning. And then you have to ask the biggest question, which I love because my coach asks this of me all the time. But the biggest question is, who do I have to be in order to be in that kind of love relationship? Am I willing to be that person?
Wow. So I'm kind of like, this is a weird space for me, because I'm kind of like, I'm sitting here feeling super convicted and a little, I don't know if it's like sad or relieved. I don't know.
Yeah.
You hit something. I don't know exactly what it is. And this isn't even like my therapy session. This is just some real talk.
Right.
Which but there's so much truth to what you're saying. And I look back, I got married at 22 and we've been together for 4 years, and we didn't necessarily get married because we were in love or because it was right, but there wasn't a reason not to.
Okay.
And it took me a long time to like own that and say that out loud. And don't get me wrong, like we loved each other and we had a good foundation and we were good partners at that time. But now I've been accused of avoiding committing further in relationships because of I carry a fear that it will just be the next logical step instead of something I'm compelled at a heart level to do. And some of my partners have not been excited by that hesitancy and not wanting to just fall in line with what is expected or what should come next by traditional standards. And that's really convicting. Like that, how long am I willing to pretend to be in this situation?
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a sense of sadness that comes, with realizing some of this, especially if you're in a relationship, because you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then how it raises all kinds of questions. And it's not to say that you can't get to a space, though, in your current situation that allows you to participate at your full heart space. But it is going to require you to have some serious conversations with your loved one and your beloved, and to sit and go, we need to get to the true place. We need to get to the real place. And I think that we can do that together. But I'm pretending right now to fit into this really, looks pretty good on the outside package, but feels really bad on the inside. And if that person, loves you, then they're going to want to have that same deep connection and meaningful conversation with you. So I think it's a sadness in some ways, but you have to remember we have never been taught in our society that we can choose. We've never been taught that we don't have to fulfill this like idea of what love is. We've been taught that we have to fall in line with what it's been set in front of us.
Oh, thank you. I have on more times than I can count on all my fingers and all my toes engaged in a situation I knew was wrong from the beginning because it was in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm a reactionary connector, which is something I've just recently discovered. And I don't even know if that's a real term or not, but that's what it
sounds good.
That's the problem. Because I will be kind of lukewarm about someone. So if they aren't interested, cool, fine, I don't miss them. And if they are interested, okay, then I'm in. But it's like dependent on, it's me being reactionary to their level of desire for me. Like, how messed up is that? Like, it's just a discovery that's come to light recently. And I look at my patterns and I really dive deep into what gets me to where I am. And I'm like, well, I'm willfully making the choice to play the role in this situation repeatedly.
Yeah. Based on expectations and
yes.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting you say that too, because last night I gave a talk, a follow-up talk on, kind of the topic we were just talking about love beliefs and, designing them yourself and knowing that it's okay to do that. Because I had to come to terms with that, because I wasn't living in a traditional situation and I was constantly being questioned about that. And we find ourselves sitting on the outside edge all the time of, doing things with couples and, hanging out with them and being asked to do things like that all the time because we aren't traditional. And I think that it makes people question their relationship. And so they don't want it to be right in front of their face all the time because it makes them question like, well, what are we doing? Like, why aren't we that in love and we're married? You see what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, I've had to go through that. And last night I gave a talk about how our attachment to love creates suffering. And whether you're in love or whether you're out of love, there's suffering. And it's a very Buddhist way of thinking about love. And it's exactly why, in Buddhism, obviously, if you're becoming a monk, you don't subscribe to the idea of love because it creates suffering. And why would you knowingly enter into something that creates suffering? And people like look at me kind of in the audience like, I'm in love, Jenee. Like, I'm not suffering. What are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, but the thought of you losing love or fighting with love, that's suffering.
Yeah.
And the thought of not having it or ever having it for that matter is suffering. So you can only conclude that love and attachment, bring suffering. And they're like kind of going like, okay. Like in the audience, I can just see their eyes kind of gloss over a little because they were they were thinking, okay, I get that, but now what? Like, and here you are, you're in a loving relationship.
That's not what it looks like on the
Yes.
movies, and that's not what it looks like, the fairy tales, and that's not what it looks like on the cul-de-sac, That's not what
Right.
it looks like. How
Well,
could that
and
be right?
yes, and that's not what it looks like when you watch and you see my pictures with my fiance. And this is coming from the mouth of somebody like that. So here is like kind of the case of which I back this up. Like, you know, my fiance and I, we live very individual lives. We're like two trees. We grow side by side and our branches mingle and flirt a lot, but we don't grow intertwined. And in our culture right now, love binds us, ties us. We tie the knot. Like we put the unity candle together and we blow out our individual candles. And I think that is the most saddest fucking thing ever. Oh, sorry.
I've always needed that. I'm like, I don't want to not be my own individual being anymore just
Yeah.
because I love you. I don't want to sacrifice that.
Yeah. And I think we are taught to do that, is to sacrifice and to compromise on who we are as individuals for the betterment of becoming one. And I think that is the first step to a marriage not really working the way it's supposed to. And I think it's going to work a little differently for everybody at that level, and that those levels are going to change for everyone and they're going to evolve and things like that. But the thing is that, we don't spend all this time together. And I fought this for a year when I met him, because when I met him, I was like still working from the belief system that love is unity. Love is working together. Love is entangled in each other's lives and up each other's butt. Like literally, like I thought that's what love was. That was what the culture in front of me had spread out in front of me.
Right.
And then I realized like, I loved him for all the things that we call facticity. I loved him, or not even him, like that's where it first started, but all the other relationships that came before that, it was kind of like, is he attractive to me? Will his message align with mine? Will he be a good father? Will his talents bring our family abundance? And then I thought about it and I'm like, all those things are attached to me. And I was like, oh my God. And then I started realizing how this love story with my fiance was unfolding. And I started realizing that I love him for all the things he is outside of our relationship. So I love him for his subjectivity. I love him because of his perspective on the world. I love him because of his ambition and work ethic. I love him because of his sense of social responsibility. And I thought, okay, none of those things are connected to me. And when I realized that, my heart like kind of sank, but then it soared at the same time, because I thought, oh my God, how could I have been so wrong about love for so long?
See, that's what I feel like. That's the next lesson that I have felt slowly unfolding for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is I thought that it was black or white, or I thought that it was in or out, and there's all these beautiful, lovely shades in between, and I am okay owning the space that I'm comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, I'm really interested to hear your thought on how worth plays into this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big one, because if you don't feel obviously that you're worthy of love, you're going to have some issues. But I think it even goes further than that, because it really does come to a space where you're going to have to love yourself so much that you don't have to be in the middle of his life. And I got to that space, and I had this cognitive dissonance within me, because I thought, like, how could I love someone so much and not have to be in his life 24/7? And how can I still think that I have some kind of connection with him? And then I started, as I kind of like really deciphered and kind of picked this apart, as human beings, we all have a purpose. And to pursue that purpose and freedom is the greatest love there is. I allow him to pursue his purpose and freedom. Some of those things could include me, obviously, but he has to do what he needs to do as an individual man. Like I have to do what I need to do as an individual woman to bring impact, to bring, purpose to whatever small community, large scale audience that looks like. And a human being who doesn't pursue their purpose and freedom ultimately suffers. And I think that's where marriages go terribly astray.
I agree. I think we kind of morph in or melt into some ideal that we think we need to be or a role that we need to play and sacrifice kind of our identity or our own purpose and drive. And we think we're doing it for the greater good or it's the only way we can build a strong, united, loving relationship. And I think it does more harm than good.
It does. I think
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm curious to see, like, you clearly have a pretty firm footing and are comfortable in a relationship that operates in the space that's non-traditional by current cultural standards. Mm-hmm. Was he already in that space with you in that mindset, or is that somewhere that you two kind of navigated and grew together to find your balance and comfort zone, or where was he coming into this from? Because that's part of what I find as far as mismatch goes is I don't think I've ever gone out with anyone who would be of the mindset where they could operate in a similar space.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm thinking, because I don't want to compromise on that and I don't want to conform to someone else's expectation. And I'm happy with myself, but I'm curious to know, did he show up to the party with this mindset, or is this something that you guys kind of negotiated together?
He did not. We both came into it with a traditional mindset. So that should tell you right there that things, can evolve the way, differently. When you start realizing that you're maybe living this life that everybody else is living, and you're abiding by all the same rules and belief patterns that everybody is living. And then you realize, well, maybe I don't believe that. Maybe I don't have to believe that. And when you realize you don't maybe have to believe that, things start shifting. And that's kind of how things shifted for us. He came into this having been in a relationship for 10, 12 years of marriage, I think. And, we both came into it with kids. He has an older daughter. She's actually going to be 21 soon. My son being 10 almost. And, but this was years ago. So she was 13 and Evan was like 3. And, so we came into this with this, traditional ideals. His parents have been married and are utterly in love, just like mine. And we had all these kind of, signals and experiences and examples to follow, right? And then we both got divorced and things shifted, obviously, in that moment, because you have to question, like, what happened.
Right.
And then we realized, like, the paperwork really didn't make anything better. It didn't make anything, it didn't make things more special. Yeah. Or guarantees or anything like that. And, so we're like, okay, well, do we really need to go that route? We started questioning our own love beliefs. I don't think we really realized that's what it was at the moment, but we're like, why do we have to do it that way? We'll just relax into this. This feels good. Let's just do this for a while, like whatever that means. And I'm not saying that we'll never get married. It may happen, but it's just not on our radar at all. It's just not, because right. I know that it would be so easy right now to walk away. We're not tied. We don't have real estate together. We don't have bank accounts together. We don't have credit cards together. Everything is separate for us, but we are more in love than most people I know who have everything that are combined and on top of each other. And
I think such a strong message though. Like that's when like you're not obligated to tolerate each other. You're not obligated to play a role for each other. You're really truly engaged in spending your life together for no other reason than choice.
Yes. And when 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 we know that we can just easily walk away, I mean, it's almost harder to stay together in that kind of situation if things go wrong, because it's easy to split, right? In marriage, it's tangled, and it's, divorces, and it's custody, and it's, who gets what, and it's money, and it's so much more things. But we treat it so easy too, in some ways, right? Divorce, I'll just get rid of this. It's easy because I'll just divorce. But it's harder almost to stay together in a situation where there's none of those things that are tying me to him. Nothing ties me to him. I mean, we just literally last week, I just put him he got his own like life insurance policy writer on, like with mine. It's like, but it's still like separate, because we're not traditionally married. So, I mean, it's like it's still not even the same thing, but we still care about taking care of each other, long term. So
you're like, don't go getting comfortable now thinking I'm stuck. It's just,
I mean, it was just, we're trying to make sure that each one of us is taken care of, God forbid something happened to one another. So, but we're still, our lives are separate, and yet we live this very, like together life. I mean, I don't talk to him all day long on the phone. We rarely text. And I think some people would be like, well, that's not the definition of a successful relationship. And I'd ask them, why? Who told you that? Where did you learn that? Well, I don't know. It's just the truth. Why is it the truth? I mean, you have to question that, because who said it was the truth? I mean, it really makes you kind of, I don't know where I learned that. And when you realize that you hold a belief and then you can't tell me where it came from, there's a problem there. That's a problem.
Right. Time to click off the conveyor belt, kids. It's let's independent thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that automatic autopilot kind of lifestyle. And that's just not how we do life. And it doesn't work for everybody. Some people really thrive in the system kind of mentality, and that's okay. It's not to distinguish that I'm better or that's better or anything. It's just, I like to make sure that people are living from their soul space. And in order to do that, you're going to have to question your belief systems and, where they're holding you back and where they're propelling you forward, and what those beliefs are also attached to, and it's a complicated thing. I mean, it takes time. It's just not one of those things that you just deal with overnight and go, okay, well, I guess I don't have to be married. Like, it's an evolution. You do have to take your time with making these decisions and craft them. But when you realize that, oh my God, it's so fun.
Well, it's interesting. I feel like I'm at the beginning phases of this process where I'm giving myself permission to question things I previously thought.
Yeah.
And I didn't need permission, but for some reason, the idea of like, hey, I'm going to start checking in with me and my own belief system. And I'm going to start, listening to my heart space and my intuition and my internal compass. And does this feel right? How does this feel? Is this feeding me or is this depleting me?
Yes.
Like all that entire process, Jenee, is like new on my radar as in the last 6 months.
Well, this is good timing then we're having this conversation, because
like it had never even, for whatever reason, I just had assigned myself to the thinking of it is what it is. Right. Mm-hmm. Which works out nicely for someone who's like avoidant and doesn't want pain and doesn't want to do the work, because it's like, oh, well, I just can't find the right person. It's like, well, no, you haven't found yourself yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to uncover that and then figure out how you thrive. And then that's how that will go.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
how you quit taking what's in front of you. That's how you quit settling in spaces that you're uncomfortable in, but you feel like it's the next logical thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's you're right. It's painful. And there's a high level of discomfort that comes when you're new to that process and new to that thinking. Because it really does challenge everything foundationally.
It does. And it's not just you, right, who suffers, because the people around you are suffering too, because they're watching you, dive into this, whether it's your family or your kids or whatever. And they're watching you live that life, and they're going to question you as well. So the pain's going to also affect them. And you have to take some responsibility for that as well. But at the same time, why? I mean, it's your life. I mean, I love my son. He is the air, my co-pilot. I mean, he's the air in my lungs. But, I'm not going to completely alter every aspect of my life for him, because what does that teach him?
Right.
It teaches him that he is going to alter his life and his patterns and his systems based on what other people think. And so I have to walk a balance with kids, because obviously they need, they need guidance, they need boundaries, but I'm much more of a kind of like a free range parent. His dad is somewhat like that, but it holds a little of a tighter grip on him, because that's just his style. And we meet in the middle, and it works out fine. It's great. I mean, it's a great collaboration. He's getting both sides, and ultimately he's going to get to choose, right, how he wants to do it. So, I think you just have to like really understand that it's okay if it brings pain, because ultimately you are going to be living a free life, this life of freedom, this life of feeling like I made this choice and I can take responsibility for it. And I made that belief and I live from that. And that's what we call alignment, right? It's about really being aligned with what you truly believe. And when you live in alignment, and most people have these moments, I live it every day, and then I fall out of it. And then, I fall back into it and stuff like that. It's a constant evolution. It's a constant checking in with yourself. And most people are exhausted by the idea of that process. And they don't do the work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And self-discovery and cleaning out the closets and the cobwebs and the dark spaces. Like it's exhausting. I'm more emotionally raw and exhausted from the last 6 months than I have been in my previous, 30 plus years.
Yeah. And, it's, most people don't have the time. They're too busy trying to take care of their daily responsibilities, and survival, then they can to sit and contemplate, what they believe. And, but on the other side, and I think a TED talk about this, I can't remember who it was, but we take more care of our hair and our teeth and our body than we do our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's devastating. That's a devastating thought to me. And people will spend more money on those things. They'll go and get their nails done every day. They'll get their hair done, once a month or whatever, and they'll spend gobs of money. But then you ask them to invest in them, who they are at the core, I can't afford that. And I'm like, you can't afford to take care of your brain? Okay, like that's cool. And, when I see you taking care of your hair again and you're not where you are in your life, I'm going to hope you're going to check in with yourself and say, why am I not here? Like, why am I not happy with my life? It's because you don't invest in yourself. Sometimes that requires money. Sometimes that requires you to just do the inner work, right? You can go and learn this stuff on your own, or you can hire a coach or, get into a group program of some sort to try to speed up that process, which I would attest to, not just because I'm a coach, but because I have been coached, because I have a coach. Yep. I can take 20 years and get to the same place I am now, or I can invest thousands of dollars of which I have in a coach and say, get me there faster. And by damn, she did it. Like I escalated quickly. I up-leveled quickly because of it. So, I think it's all in how you decide, you want to move and how long, again, you would like to pretend. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I would really love to give our listeners a way to connect with you further and learn more. I mean, I don't ever want to stop talking to you, honestly, because as much as I'm like mildly afraid and a little convicted and, it's all such good stuff though. Like, it's one of those things, like when you hear truth, it just resonates in your soul.
Yeah.
Like my soul is reverberating with your words because I know them to be true. And I know that it's time, and it's just one of those things. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, listening to this that's having the same experience. So how can people?
And I feel the energy. Like when you tell me that, like my body is covered in goosebumps because
the vibe is very strong. Yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting because energy, I do a lot of work on brain and chemistry and energies and how they transcend over spaces and stuff like that. And that's real. I mean, that's, totally real and own that feeling. And it can mean whatever you need it to mean for you. And it can mean whatever it needs to be for other people. But when you're moved that way, don't ignore it, right? Like I would urge your listeners, like, don't ignore that, because that is the stuff that's the magic. That's what you feel in your body. That's magic. and people are always like, I want this magical life. And I'm like, you have it, you experience it all the time, but you ignore it. And that's like this space of awe. And I even, I talk about that in my book, is chasing awe. We're always kind of chasing that. And we spend so much money trying to chase it and from this external place, but you have it in you. Like, that's you created that. It was through a conversation, but you're still experiencing that from a physicality standpoint.
Yeah. You can't ignore it or push it away with busy or cover it up.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm learning as far as like you said, I work with several coaches too, for the very same reasons. I want to expedite my growth and my awareness. And I've learned things, again, even just in the last 6 months, that for me a year ago, I would have scoffed at or laughed at or not have been able to really see the value in. And it literally has changed my life at a soul level. And has elevated my thinking and my awareness and has really created this amazing thirst to just know more and be more, stay more at that vibration and more in that energy and the flow, because it really, like, once you get in that spot, you don't ever want to get out of it.
Yeah.
You don't want anything to drag you out of it. And I think having good coaching and having good support is really instrumental in just keeping you in that heart space where you're really, really open to finding your own truth, and then being brave enough to really step into it and own it and live in it every day. Because it can be painful and it can be hard work, but what's the alternative? To be mediocre?
Yeah.
That's not for me. And I don't want it to be okay for anybody listening to this either. Like, you are meant for more.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do work, but it's there for you.
And most people kind of feel that in themselves, but they don't know what to do, because once you do start diving into your inner work, it opens up so many doors, and then you get into this oversaturation. And I'm sure you have felt this in your growth space, because I get to a place where I like, oh my gosh, I'm diving deep. Like, I've been diving deep in brain activity lately, and I'm geeking the heck out, like, so hard. And I'm even sending stuff to my kid, and he's like going, Mom, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, no, seriously, you look at this. This is like your brain activity. Like, when you learn something. And he's like, what am I looking at? But I geek out about it because we don't use enough of our brain to make some of these decisions. We just let ego make these decisions for us because it's easy, and ego is there to kind of keep you safe. And the ego is the brain to me in many ways, because it's the thing that's wired to keep you away from pain and survival. And we do everything we can to shun that idea and like get rid of ego. And ego's not going anywhere. So you better just make friends with it.
To continually crash the party if you don't figure out how to maneuver around it.
Yeah. And it's the thing that's constantly talking to you every day, right? They say that we say 400 words to ourselves per minute.
Oh my gosh.
It's a wonder we're not batshit crazy. Really, it's a wonder that we can carry on life with knowing that we say 400 words to ourselves a minute. And I just think it's kind of remarkable that if you know that about your brain, and you know that about your ability to handle lots of information at once, then you should be able to go on this journey of looking within and be confident in knowing that, that little sliver in your mind that tells you that you are more, that you are enough, that you are worth more. It might be just a sliver, but it's not going to go anywhere until you start paying the heck attention to it.
Yeah. I'd love to get kind of if you could only give people one piece of advice or one point of reference to help them show up in the room the way they want to show up. That's kind of my big thing, is helping people show up the way they want to in a room. How would you encourage them to show up in the realm of kind of the digital dating space?
I would ask them to put love on the top shelf and just go try people on like you would if you were trying clothes on, and just, get a sense of who they are and figure out what you really want. When you hit the dating apps, you do so with, so many women I know, at least, and even men, they do so with this intention of finding the love of their life. And so when something doesn't work out, even in the smallest of ways, they get so disappointed. So I would say put love on the top shelf and just go and try things on, try people's personalities on, their, physicality on, their, be safe and don't be dumb about it. But whatever that looks like for you. For some people, that's going to be being super intimate with someone. And for other people, that's going to be like holding hands with someone. But, whatever that feels good to you, like be okay with making that decision and be okay with just dating people for the sake of finding the things you want in your mate. So you can call that in. Like, that guy had all these things, but this one thing is like a deal breaker. I can't deal with that. Like, I don't want that, but I'm going to concentrate on these other factors that he brought to my life. And I can't deny that those things really fueled me, and I really love them. And then you collect that, and then you move on to the next person and you collect more. And by the time that you're done, like with this dating thing, and the person that walks into your life which is the right person, it will all have made sense, and it will all have been worth it.
I love that. That just took like all the pressure off.
Mm-hmm. It does. It really does. And when you stop looking at these dating sites as these, avenues to marriage and traditionality and these things that are like you think you're supposed to have, you're living a life you think you're supposed to have instead of the life that you are supposed to have. And so why not just take that off the table and just go, I'm just going to go and just, enjoy this process. You can enjoy it. It's a choice. You can choose to make this really painful for yourself in dating, or you can choose it to be an enjoyable process. You have consciously made the choice. So when you have to take ownership of that, it makes things totally different, right? It totally changes things.
Yeah, it does. I love that. I think that is the perfect place to just let the listeners sit for a minute as we wrap up. I love it. So Jenee, this has been such an amazing experience and blessing to me. And thank you for being on and sharing your perspective. And I know there's a lot of people probably sitting there right now, like rethinking their whole life, which is exactly No, in such a good way, it's so good and healthy to be challenged in these ways. But if somebody wants to connect more with you and find out how to work with you or get your book, where should they go?
The easiest way is to just hit me up on my website. So that's just www.jenee, it's Jenee, Michelle.com. And you can find all my links to all of my social spaces there. It's at the bottom of that page. And my book is so new, I don't even have it on my website yet. So I'm going to put that up probably later today on my website. But there'll be a link to be able to go purchase my book if you want. It's an awesome quick read. I mean, and I put tons of my master classes in that book and some of my speaking engagements as well. So there's hundreds of dollars of value in that book that people have paid already for. And you're getting it for $1.99 right now. So I'm going to leave it at that price for just a little while longer. And so people your viewers and our listeners can, go and catch a copy of that.
Awesome. And that is available on Amazon right now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. And I just want to thank you guys for all riding along with me for another episode of Shiny Things. And you can't control how other people show up in the room, but you are in complete control of how you show up in every situation in your life. Dating is no exception. To get the outcome you want, show up as the person that you need to be. It's totally on you. Let me know how you put today's superpower moment to good use as you're out and about in the wild this week. You can tell me how everything's working for you or if you have any questions. And I'd love to hear your story. So email me at lisa@powerbodylanguage.com and tell me all about it. Who knows? Maybe you'll get to come on as a guest. Until our next podcast date, keep showing up as the person you want to be.